Hello and welcome to the last word with Ebontis and a special guest this evening. Actually, taking a little step away from the campfire and doing a little one-on-one here with our good friend in the Destiny community and an amazingly kind gentleman just to everybody that you ever see him interact with. Our wonderful guest, Danfinity. We had him on the podcast before, and a joys of a Twitter thread, because I will still always call it that. Never going to call it the other one.
No.
A Twitter thread,
What is it?
literally
Is it-
just it's X
Would-
or and what do you do?
would it be
You
a zitter-
tweet. Yeah, a
Zitterzed?
Zeets? I gave up trying to figure that out. It's a tweet. So anyway, there was just a discussion we had with regards to variety content, which is a thing
Mhm.
a lot of people are considering, facing, trying to figure out, wrap your head around, and all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
seemed like it was a worthwhile discussion because you're looking at and have been doing with Beardo and stuff like that. I know you do a lot. And then my past year has been probably even more variety than Destiny with regards to views and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
seemed like a good time to have a discussion. So
Heck yeah.
that's kind of the
into
opening.
it.
How you been though?
I've been well. Content wise, trying to navigate the waters of variety and kind of creation as well. Had like a pretty good year last year, and toward the end, like started doing more variety stuff just because there were a lot of games that came out like in
There
that
always
final quarter
are.
of the year.
Always.
There's always a game coming out. But like I think for me there was like I got 3 codes right before I went on a 2-week vacation.
Oh,
It was like Baldur's Gate
fun.
3. I got Baldur's Gate 3, Sea of Stars, and Starfield.
Yep.
All within a week. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
I do not have time to start these games
Mm-mm.
before I leave for Germany.
Yeah, no, not a
Otherwise,
European trip especially.
so yeah, so I started dabbling like more and more with that. What was the impetus for your variety?
I mean, it was just probably in the last year or so wanting to try and cover more stuff, and there were big things, and it was probably the first one I think would have been Diablo 4. It was
Yeah.
like something big enough on the channel to kind of test, see how content's going to do, see how
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be received on the channel. What am I going to be good at covering? Guides, surprising. And it was just trying to experiment and see what would kind of take. And then there was, forget which one of the websites that you apply for keys and other things,
Yeah.
because there are a buttload. We can cover that actually as well.
Rainmaker, there's Keymailer,
Rainmaker, Keymailer, GameToon, Terminals, Lurkit, Wovit. And it was one of those, and it was one where you had to have like the requirements met just by analytics purely.
Yeah.
And then if you hit claim, you just got it.
Yeah.
And I did that for Diablo 4, and I'm like, all right, give it a shot. Kind of thing. I'm not going to argue, sort of, and see how it goes.
No marketing team touched this.
No, they just set up the analytics, and if you were good enough, then
yeah,
get cracking. So it was that, and also just the idea of like, we know Destiny had some length coming, and it was just kind of the idea that let me see what I can do, and let me see how much I can throw my hat in the ring. The Diablo was first, then after that was Remnant 2. I got to cover that, and then Starfield. For those don't try and do all of this all the time. If you're trying to get access to a game, for one, it depends on how you're trying to get access to a game. Are you trying to stream it? All you care about is literally just getting a code for the stream embargo. That is the idea that, hey, you want to stream it for a community, you want to play through it live, your community is there for the live experience. If you're trying to do something for YouTube, kind of a very different equation, because longer form content means you need to play it, make the video, edit it for the embargo. So it's always kind of the, how much can you get done before the deadline hits you?
Yeah.
Versus some which excel on the streaming side, and they get to do hey, I'm going to play it live and get my experience that way. And then that's kind of more of their forte. They may pull content from that, but it works in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of the aspect of trying to be very clear with what you're going to try and do with the content and all of that type of stuff. So it's been an interesting journey. I probably covered like 5 topics just in my discussion there, but
yeah,
it started with I love playing a bunch of different games. I always have. Like I've played. I mean, I'm 40 right now, so I've been playing games since 8-bit Nintendo's my first console, just because we didn't have an Atari, but 8-bit Nintendo, Mario Brothers 3. It's like, and I've always enjoyed tons of different types of games too. But with Destiny, there's so many that I've always missed. So Breath of the Wild, I only made it say 8 hours into, and I would love to put 100 hours into that. But I'm sure as I was playing through and dabbling with it and playing some Destiny, then while covering Destiny, there was another season that came out, and I gotta go cover that.
Off you went.
So does that describe part of your last years of playing our wonderful game Destiny?
I mean, yeah. I think that there's something too about like our experiences are kind of along the same lines. Like we cover Destiny.
Yeah.
We have shows about it.
Yeah.
And or have been on shows or produce shows
You've been
around
on ours,
it.
like exactly.
Exactly. I produced and edited Planet Destiny for years, and then like now Destiny Digest.
Did I come on there when you guys?
You
remember
came on. I want to say that you were on once,
and Nim and
probably TBL.
Yeah, there were a few. Yeah, I feel like you guys did actually have me on. So yeah, I mean, Planet Destiny was an icon, and there was change of people and stuff, and you've seen how that's gone
by gamers.
Yeah,
it got bought by gamers, and now who knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like the journey is a little bit the same. Like you do a show because you're passionate about the thing that it covers and the niche, and I think for a while, like that's enough, and like the things that are really exciting in the game are very exciting, and so it kind of pushes you to keep like mining that, right? And so I don't know, it's just in the last couple of years I've been wanting to play more variety stuff, and I've been kind of pushing that myself with like, so did Alan Wake last year, and
oh good.
So Alan Wake 1, I didn't play the original. I only played the
remaster. Yep.
Yeah. And I still find I'm playing Alan Wake 2 right now, and I still find Alan to be insufferable.
Oh, I mean, like, the first game was no one knows what's going on, and you kind of probably know maybe a little less in Alan Wake 2, possibly, but Alan Wake 1 was a game of its time. Like, you could tell its age. Like, it looked a little better, ran a little better, but you're like, I'm not entirely sure. There's this writer, and you've got the kind of survival horror, limited bullets and flashlight thing going on. No, that was a fun. Alan Wake 2 was an interesting review process for me, because man, did I have some couple of weird bugs. Like, I had one that was almost game breaking to a point of like almost the final in the story, and I had to wait for a patch. It was really quick. It was like day 1, maybe day 2 or 3, and it was that kind of patch to fix it. But yeah, I was like, no, Alan Wake was quite an experience. Like, I do want to. This is probably going to go all over the place, so sorry about the Scatterbrain podcast. This will be just kind of, stream of consciousness. But that reminds me of something, because as you reach out, you get codes, you get a chance to play something early.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time that you and I have probably played variety games, many things besides Destiny and Destiny's Live, so we've been doing this for a while, it is with the rest of the world. There are thoughts, videos, opinions out there of somebody else's. I mean, if you've managed to avoid spoilers about some major titles, good job. I've got some big omissions in my library that I do need to get to at some point. But when you play something under embargo, typically you're also not talking to anybody else about it, because you don't know who's in that little silo. And I wanted to ask you, how has that experience been for you? Because even for Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, I got to play with like a Prima strategy guide, and I went looking for all the
Mm-hmm.
Skulltulas and the hearts and stuff like that. But now there's not really a guide, so if you hit a puzzle or a thing, you got to figure out you are on your own little island, and I want to ask
Yeah.
you kind of how your thoughts on that were.
Um, my experience. So I haven't really had like a lot of embargo stuff. Like a lot of my a lot of the time I'll ask for something and then like the day before it releases
That
I'll
believe me,
get
that happens to me too. Like you're
yeah
like,
yeah
or literally minute of release. I got one of those,
yeah
or a couple of those.
yeah I've been very lucky like Kepler Interactive.
Yes.
I don't know how they got my info, but they were like, "Hey, do you want like a code to Ultros?" And I was like,
Yep.
"Yeah, that game looks rad."
It
And it
is
is rad.
rad. Yeah.
It's like a super colorful
Did you
Metroidvania.
play Pacific Drive? Because I worked with them on that too.
Yes. Yes.
Dude, I want to
Pacific
talk
Drive.
about that game with somebody. I haven't talked to anybody about it because, like, Travis and Cognito haven't played it, haven't touched it. They've been busy doing
Yeah.
other stuff. Pacific
Yeah.
Drive.
That game's great. I believe like I mentioned it on one of your like while you guys were doing like the cooldown on one of the shows.
Ah,
And dude, that game's so fun. It's like
man. Now, I will be completely honest. When I did the preview that I got to, it was like back in January. I got to do a
yeah.
preview with like first couple of hours, and then you could go out and do runs to kind of stock up. Hadn't quite wrapped my head around some of the loop, and one of the biggest frustrations
Mhm.
was getting damaged and the whole repair putty thing.
Yeah.
But finally, when I went through and played it this time, kind of more of remaking the parts was cheaper. Somebody in chat in the preview told me about like finding electronics, so that was a little couple things were easier to
Mhm.
come by. Like it's got some sharp edges to it, but
Yeah.
when you find that just like when you find the right tunnel to go through to proceed forward,
Yeah.
metaphorically per se, that game does some cool stuff. Like the voice acting, as you get farther into it, I had a blast. And that is what some of the things when people get stuck inside of say, a Destiny world, to get stuck inside one game, they miss.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
what gets to be kind of sad. You mentioned Ultros. Like, that is one of the most vibrant psychedelic Metroidvanias that probably is going to ever exist. And so many people will
Yeah.
never even know it does.
Yeah. And like it's just such a cool it's a cool thing for me. It has been one of the things where like I kind of know where I sit in Destiny, and I kind of know where I sit in directories, and I kind of know that I know a lot of people. I know you through the Destiny community. I've met a lot of my friends and fellow content creators through the Destiny community, and variety is scary
Oh, yeah.
because like it is a tether out into the unknown, and you don't know what's going to click with people,
Exactly.
and you don't know necessarily if a game is going to be for you. Like Ultras, I had
I had one
a
of those
blast.
recently, but one didn't click with me. So that was
Yeah.
a tough one.
Ultras is beautiful. It's an awesome game. I got about like 3 hours in and I was like, oh, okay, I see what this is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see it all the way through.
Gotcha.
Like,
Did you
but
finish
then
Pacific?
I haven't finished Pacific yet, not for lack of trying.
Right.
It's for its time reasons.
Yeah. No,
But like
those
you
runs
get a
get a little longer depending on what you're doing.
yeah, something that we've been doing in the Discord server, in my community Discord server, is like a game club thing. So it's kind of like a book club, but you're playing a game every month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the first month was Thirsty Suitors.
Okay. Yep.
The idea is that for the game club is that you play like 4 hours of it, get a feel for it. If it's your vibe, then go ahead and complete it if you want to. But at the end of the month, we sit down and we talk about the game, the mechanics, story, anything that like connected us to it and what we liked and disliked about it. That way we can the idea is to help educate each other as well as like have a way of talking about games that aren't just Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that is something that Destiny players get stuck in. Like
Oh, yeah.
Destiny players love talking Destiny, and when it's good, when it sucks, and that is all they focus on instead of like, oh, this mechanic from Thirsty Scholars where I fought my grandma, And like
weird,
it was
right?
really just emotional conversation instead of all the punches.
Yeah.
Like in a JRPG setting, you don't necessarily get that with it. And so I've been trying to expand my horizons. I've been trying to expand the horizons of my audience
Yep.
and the people around me so that it's more of a viable thing going forward to have those conversations and um to be excited about games because there was I do these yearly end of year reviews for the channel. And I asked, I was like, hey, one of the questions was like, hey, like, what do you think would improve the Discord? And one of the replies was, look, I just got into Destiny, and there's a bunch of folks in here who are like whining. Like, I kind of wish that I got here 4 or 5 years ago because I feel like that would have been when people were less whiny about the game. And so, like, it's something that I'm hyper aware of, just how we act as a community, or like at least how people talk about the game. So,
I mean, and that's the other side of it too, is like outside of the Destiny community, there's a lot of people laughing at us. And it's not it's not,
yeah.
and it's like, and I can understand it because this has been going on so long. A lot of people played at the early onset of Destiny 1 or Destiny
Mhm.
2, and the stranger doesn't have enough time to explain, or you got to do the Red War and then you just kind of bailed. And people
Yeah.
haven't seen the journey that a lot of us have gone through with this thing. Same that have been people that have been playing Final Fantasy 14 for years and years and years. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on, but Final Fantasy 14 tends to have a lot of positive reviews about it. And then
Mhm.
most of the time, the external discussion of Destiny is let's see how we can crap on it today.
Yeah.
It
I
feels like that.
I and I think that can there's kind of a bias there from folks inside the house
Yeah.
too, like of like, oh well, everybody like people talk bad about the game, and I know I listen to I listen to a lot of Giant Bomb and Nextlander stuff, and I
Nice.
know um that like Brad was the Destiny guy for a while.
Yep, I remember.
And,
Yeah, I haven't
like,
listened to Giant Bomb in a minute, but I listened to a lot of theirs. Yeah, I remember Brad talking about a lot of that.
yeah, and so like having somebody I've been trying to come at it from the perspective of like I'm outside of the community, or of somebody in a position of being outside of the community, looking at the game objectively instead of like knowing in my heart of heart I love the game. I'm a
Yeah.
little fanboy for it, but like objectively, like what's good about the game? Like what draws me into it? And when I start noticing myself have like burnout, or knowing that I'm forcing emotion
Yeah.
instead of just going with it and enjoying it, I'm trying to look at it like, okay, well then this mechanic thing didn't sit right with
Yep.
me. And I tweeted something yesterday about Guardian games. It's like the competition doesn't matter. It's arbitrary. We're all
Oh,
gonna die
it's.
someday.
I saw a picture in my Discord. I saw a picture in my Discord, and it was like now the Titans were. It was Titans 40 million, Warlocks 32 million, Hunters 29 million. It's like now they swung the pendulum too far the other way. Who knows? Like
Yeah.
the whole scoring, who wins, who loses. I could care less, honestly. The hoverboards were a good
Yeah.
thing to get us back, but
Yeah.
sometimes, as you say, it's
Skimmers
short.
are fucking fun.
Yeah, they're a blast. They really are. They are kind of fun, very cool. I'm still getting used to the 190 Sparrow because I didn't have the
Yeah.
Scourge one for a very long time. So like
Yeah.
on the Sparrow ribbon run on Prophecy,
Mhm.
I gotta like relearn how to do that, especially on mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm still better on controller, but I never. No, but that's kind of the same idea of YouTube has generally been my focus for a very long time. I
Yeah.
have not been a big Twitch streamer. Never have been.
Mhm.
Not consistent on there, which is partially my own fault. But depending on what you're doing and stuff, it's always been my focus a bit more on YouTube, and it has
Mhm.
been a grind, just like anybody else's grind for what they're doing. Twitch has been my way to have a place to say, hey, if you come from YouTube, watch one of my videos, and you come over here and hang out, I might be playing Destiny, I might not. But
Mm-hmm.
Twitch has been my way to play variety games, but at least still with some purpose.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things about a content creator. If you've never been in the profession, it never leaves the back of your brain.
Right.
So the idea of playing something that you're not covering, or say Destiny, for example, you're like, how do I play this game and make it even remotely like somewhat worth my time? So for me, it was at least streaming, trying to be a little consistent. Popular games, like I played through all of Horizon Zero Dawn, and I played through Elden Ring on stream, and I've played through a lot of stuff on stream that's been variety, but never with purpose of saying covering it or anything like that. And then now I'm in the weird state where I am playing stuff for variety and covering it for YouTube. But if I'm playing it for embargo, I can't turn around and stream it because unless I'm going to replay it again.
Right.
So now I flipped it all the way to the other side. I was like, wait a minute, how did I? So
now you can't play it unless there's New Game Plus or something.
Yeah, New Game Plus, or just start over and demo it or something like that. And so that's been a weird thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as a content creator, it's always the idea of like, am I using my time wisely? Half the time I always feel like not. I mean, that's any of us.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why it's like when you are trying to step out for variety, it's also different because we have played Destiny for thousands of hours. Anybody who's covered it for years. So when things change, when there's an update, you're not trying to wrap your head around a brand new game. It doesn't take you 40 hours to wrap your head around a dungeon or whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to take you a few hours, figure out the mechanics, do da 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 da. But it's like if you have a new game, whether it's Pacific Drive or Ultros or what I'm covering that I can't tell anybody until a little later, whatever it may be, it takes you a chunk of time. And that whether it's 30, 40, 50 hours to wrap your head around what you're making videos on, that is a whole different side of like time commitment. And then as you said early on, it's also, is that time commitment going to be worth it? And you don't know. And that's what's scary. And that is the thing is like, hey, this is a cool thing. I kind of want to cover it. Is it gonna be worth my guide, my effort, my time, the editing, and all of that? That's such a gamble. Like right now, I think at some point I probably saw a tweet from Pal World saying, hey, if you want to cover this like early, I wish I would have played that a little early. I mean, I had still decent success with a few videos, but I wish I would have played that earlier, knowing it was going to do what it did. And no one had that on their bingo card. Nobody did.
Yeah. But also look at where it is right now too, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's gone up, it's gone down, but it's still sitting at 56,000 concurrents.
Yeah. But it felt like it was a very thick flash.
Flash in the pan, kind of.
Like, yeah. And so everybody was on it, and then it's like, in a couple weeks later, everybody's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've had that experience.
Helldivers? That's actually been impressive to watch.
Insane. Like,
I love seeing the success of it, too, because it is just the most... They leaned so hard into the skid of their theming, like the spreading democracy and stuff, and they embraced it. They didn't do PvP. It's like, you can go into random matchmaking on hard difficulties, and most of the time, you're gonna have a pretty good time. You may or may not finish it, but you're gonna have a good time. Like they kind of struck a little magic there.
Yeah, I've been playing that more and more. Like on my variety days on Twitch. We're the opposite when it comes to like the platforms that we're on. Like YouTube is kind of the mystery to me, whereas Twitch is where I make most of my bread and butter, like hanging out with people and playing games and everything. And so like I'm trying to wrap my head around how you take content from stream and push it into Let's Plays or something for YouTube. Cause I could probably make guides on things. I teach raids, or at least raid mechanics to people like on a weekly basis. I actually started working with like a whiteboard this week.
Oh yeah.
When trying to
some way to make
for
notes.
Somebody.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I've got this camera over here. It was aimed at my desk. I was like, well, here, let me draw it up for you. Like, just explain the mechanics as I draw it out. And it's like, I could probably do that and it do okay, because from what I understand, Destiny stuff is doing just okay right now.
Yep.
Or I could spend time on my community and like really kind of try to foster that as a place where we can have conversations about just any game that's releasing or
Yeah.
coming out.
And that's kind of like, is this your full-time gig? Is this a part-time thing? Where is this for you?
Yeah, for me, this has been part time. I've always kind of worked in libraries throughout my creative career. Like even before I was in gaming, when I was in bands, it was awesome to work in a library because like you're kind of on the front lines of of literacy there. Um, but it also is like a clerk job that's quite fun and worthwhile. So I've done that for most of my adult career. Lately I've been working like it's a 20-hour position and then 20 hours on content. So it's not a full-time thing, but it is like it's a full chunk
Commitment. Yeah.
of my
It's a
day and my
commitment.
week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's important enough that I'm sitting here on a microphone with you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
About it,
You
know?
got the Shure SM7B. You've invested.
Yeah. And like uh with variety, what's scary about variety when you're stretching out from like from a community that you're comfortable in is that those numbers start fluctuating very wildly on Twitch because not everybody's into seeing me play Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
Or Pacific
100% the
Drive.
truth. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
not every game is for everybody. But
Mhm.
also, part of that experience for you has got to be you're going to find people that you wouldn't have seen before. And they're going to find you
Exactly.
the same way. And they're going to say, hey, this is a nice dude. They have fun. Community's positive. Not a whole lot of turds in chat. Let me hang
Yeah.
out with him, give him a follow. And they come back and be like, he's playing something different. Let's see how it goes. And some of
Yeah.
those will come back, which for you, at least seeing. So are you seeing, like, even when you do like the variety growth to some of that, is there just the general overall growth for like Destiny and variety and stuff still slowly going up as you see more and more mix?
I feel like I see more people still in the Destiny directory because that's where I'm known for. Also, like doing helps that
Yeah.
also drives some folks your way.
Yep.
When doing variety stuff on the channel, there's like a core group of people
Yep.
that are like, oh, I'm here to support you
No matter what.
regardless. Yeah. And like some of them are very excited to see me freak out during the jump scares of Alan Wake 2. um and and like you can kind of build off that rapport, and I feel like that deepens at least my relationship with those folks who are like friends or in my audience, and like it definitely, I've been doing this 8 years, and it's like, okay, I kind of can catch a vibe for like when something is working or when something needs a little bit of a touch.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I do have is the privilege, like I've been experimenting more since I hit partnership a couple years ago, just because I have that check mark, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, they haven't said that they're going to take it away from anybody.
Yeah.
So I might as well just run while I can and see what
while
happens.
it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been like seeing the kind of peaks and valleys of variety has been scary. But I think in the long run it's more worthwhile just because it does deepen those relationships with those people, and it allows me creative freedom outside of my reaction to like some weird physics thing. Like,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's we've lived inside of the Destiny bubble so long,
Yeah.
but our desire to get out of it is probably always there. It just depends on what time allows. But now
Mhm.
finally we're at the point to where Destiny is demanding less,
Yeah.
and that desire to get out is also growing due to not monotony of the content, but repetition. We're kind of seeing a lot of
Yeah.
the same. We're waiting for episodes. We know what seasons have been for a little while. We get our weekly punch on Tuesday, and then you're like, all right, what do I do for the rest of the next 2 months? Like, you get to a point where you're
Yeah.
wondering, what am I going to be covering? What am I doing? And it got to that point of, I mean, as you said, in the directory of Destiny, I am tiny. At least
Yeah.
it feels like it. And you do certain things. It's like I had made Zerv videos for a while just because it was one of those things that was a steady video. But
Mm-hmm.
mine has been more of a shift to quality videos that I think are going to be good in the moment, as opposed to just what like Zer or news or Twid, because there's also
Right.
other people that do that bigger and better than I ever could. And it's one of
Yeah.
those that I can't, like, it is less advantageous to build my schedule around like a 12 o'clock Friday reset
Right.
because of like when those views go down. It got to a point where it's like I finally stopped, and I'm like, I'm honestly happier that I did. The fact that I'm
Right.
not trying to cover that anymore, it's like I'm not worried
You're not
about it.
chasing anything.
No.
Like, I think that's the interesting thing about what we do. Like, I was listening to Fire Escape earlier, and they were talking about reviews versus news versus feature,
Okay.
right? For gaming blogs.
Yeah.
And so reviews guys generally aren't news guys unless they're tapped for it. And like,
Yeah, that's a different skill set, definitely.
yeah. And like, news folks like do write features, but they're usually like breaking stories more often
Yeah, they're
than
quick on the trigger, may not be the best edited thing in the world.
right. So my thing, I think part of like how I look at myself on a production standpoint now when it comes to the podcast and everything, because I've taken Destiny Digest and made it every other week, but in the podcast feed I'm still doing stuff and trying to put out shows weekly.
Yep.
Whether it's like some sort of like personal diary kind of thing with Double Down, or I'm gonna have conversations with a few folks to kind of test out just a general talk show thing about what people make. There's a couple of the folks that I'm going to be having on. There's this guy named Pigmented, and he makes these beautifully elaborate woodwork inlay boxes
Oh, damn.
for
Nice.
video games.
Yeah.
And one of their videos recently, it's probably my favorite piece of theirs, is that it's a VHS box for The Thing, for the Kurt Russell movie.
Yep.
And they incorporated a mirror over The Thing's face for the classic box art. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I'm going to be talking with them about like their creative process, what got them into that. And like my friend T Monster, who has written for like Wiley Publishing, is like he did Discord for Dummies and Twitch for Dummies.
Nice.
And he's also written several sci-fi books and everything. I'm going to talk to him about his creative process, but behind his sci-fi books. But he's also like now getting into ghost hunting. So it's like this other show that is also still in the feed. I want the feed to kind of like be what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
At any given time.
Yeah. Fair.
And with Destiny, I'm thinking of myself more as a feature guy than a news guy.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there's so many people who do it well.
Oh yeah. I mean, unless you literally have a team, it is hard to compete with a lot of the big ones who do it well. But also, I mean, shout out to the success Crosses have had. I mean, he has exploded in the past couple of years, but he is nonstop. He has a team that edits. I was lucky enough to sneak him on our podcast for 90 minutes, and I feel like that's all he probably got to step away and do anything that like he is going nonstop, and he is riding the wave, and I'm like, more power to you, man. Happy to see the success because you're killing it. But also it's like if somebody's going to go read a TWAB or catch up on patch notes or anything like that between any of the big ones, like I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I know what I excel at. I know what people tend to come to me for, and it's not that stuff. And I need to, and I've learned to stop forcing that, which has been part of the journey. And for me, it was the success that really, really surprised me when I did my Diablo tips video and I came up with a pretty decent thumbnail that seemed so
That's good.
going. Um, but it's like 25 tips I wish I knew at level 1. And
Mhm.
for me, it's one of those because whether it's guides or anything else, like having tried to make, Lost Sector guides, but expecting it from a new player's perspective who doesn't have all the exotics, so I don't want to assume anything, what class you're in, try not to use my super. Let me pull that like novice mindset over to something else and be like, what are the things that even I'm 40, 50 hours into this thing that I'm comfortable with, but people wouldn't be?
Yeah.
And I knock on wood, I've actually been lucky enough to have success there. And it's really terrifying on YouTube on the other side to say it's like the numbers fluctuate.
Yeah.
Not all games going to be big and small. Like Starfield,
Right.
Diablo, Remnant, some are going to be bigger than others. Like I covered Nightingale, Pacific Drive. Um, Pacific Drive is almost up to like 50K for my tips guide. So it's like for the size of
Again.
that game, for that number of views, I'm like, I am happy. Like there are moments, but it's also like for a lot of those, since I still probably have that, if you want to look at a Venn diagram of like Destiny and guides, there's like this guides thing that seems to be trying to like reach out and stretch a little, but it's slow to do it. So when I
Yeah.
put out a video, like that graph of views is really slow, and then it like start like 4 or 5 days later when people are like trying to change thumbnails and stuff, I just can't touch it. And then like it
Yeah.
starts to tick up and grow. That's been like trying to like get more around the algorithm, understand more of like how YouTube
Mhm.
works and audience and thumbnail and title are massive and stuff. And that's kind of where it gets hard to, as you say, it's like, how do you take Twitch to YouTube?
Yeah.
And that's one for me that's always like, I have so much footage of games that I've played, even ones that I've streamed and I've recorded hours and hours and hours of games. But also, it's like, there are people like Jacksepticeye. Like, he will do a
Yeah.
Let's Play that is edited better than I could probably even hope to do it because he's got
Yeah.
somebody that's going to cut out the right moments and
It's
kind of
got a
put it
team. Yeah.
together. Yeah, and it's like, so if I'm going to sit there and just do a Let's Play, it's like, well, I don't want to go through every hour of footage after I just got done playing the footage. That's a
Yeah.
lot of work for one person to do. So that's hard to go, and that's why it's hard to go between the platforms. So with your success on Twitch, massive hats off to partner and the continued success there.
Thank
And
you.
that's why it's like that's one I do for fun is the wrong word, but at least to
Yeah.
give some purpose to me spending time playing, which half the time
Mhm.
sometimes just on my own. But on the
Yeah.
other side, it's like I've, trying to understand the YouTube piece thing. But when you throw variety in the mix, it's an interesting one.
Yeah. So what so we've talked about like kind of like why variety maybe
Yeah.
makes sense for us. We've talked about some of the pitfalls of like maybe what it'll do to your self-esteem
Yeah,
if you
that's a
look at
swing and a half. Of, woo!
it. You know? Um so like what d- we're coming up on the final shape here,
Yeah.
right? You and I are both Destiny guys.
Oh yeah,
We're coming up on the final shape.
we'll be there.
How how do you see it sticking? How do you see variety sticking? Like for you personally,
For me, it will
yeah.
be part of what I do for the future. Like for
Yeah.
me, now it's Destiny integrated with variety, as opposed
Mhm.
to focusing solely on Destiny and then doing dabbling in a little variety. So now it is like watching game release calendars, trying to reach out to every PR and community person I can. As you
Yeah.
said, all the different websites, applying in, typing my little like love note to the community manager, hoping they read it and like what you say. Like all
Yeah.
of those things, I don't think they can stop. So I think
Yeah.
for me, it's the fact that I will 100% be there for Destiny.
Yeah.
Now, the timing of Final Shape seems okay for not having too much near it. The
Right.
timing, if that first episode is 2 weeks later,
Kind of throw some
Elden Ring is 3 days after that.
yeah.
And that is one of those to where I'm not like an Elden Ring expert and I didn't cover it as like I played it for stream. Like I just did a Let's Play before
Yeah.
and I streamed it. So it's like for me, that wasn't anything I covered. But man, that is a massive game. So what do you do?
Yeah.
But for Destiny itself, it's like we know Final Shape will have an expansion. It's probably going to have obviously the raid and what new content's there and how to handle the new things. Episodes are something we're all going to have to experience firsthand. And I think that's one where, same thing. It's like I will be there to cover it, but also, I mean, I know in August, like Black Myth Wukong, I
Mm-hmm.
wait to try and hopefully play that and or cover it.
Yeah.
And I know the start of this year is very stacked. So I've got to see what
Mm-hmm.
kind of trickles throughout the year. And that's kind of it's why Destiny is not all bad to
Yeah.
cover, because it does have some stuff that you can, seasons, events, or something. It can
Mm-hmm.
kind of sometimes help fill in a calendar, which
Mm-hmm.
is beneficial depending on where releases are at and kind of how the cadence of things are going. But also, I'm at the point to where I'm thankful the episodes are actually going to be delivered the way they are.
Yeah.
Chunk of content, it sounds like, again, I don't have a confirmation,
Yeah.
but it sounds like
We don't
chunk of
know.
content. You get it all theoretically for that 6-week chunk, and then your next 6-week chunk, which means hopefully as a creator, you can go hard for a week, cover stuff, spread out whatever
Mm-hmm.
you want to do for uploads, or go hard in the beginning. But then if something is 2 or 3 weeks later in the mix, you could have time in the middle as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm kind of looking forward to the episodic model more because those
Yeah.
breaks are going to help with variety. As for Final Shape itself sticking and numbers and population and all of that stuff, I will be curious what Final Shape is, June 4th,
Yeah.
say. And then come August 4th, that is the number I care about more. Give it 2 months, let the first episode come out, let that first 6 weeks kind of rotation go. Let's see how many people
Mm-hmm.
come back for that second 6-week pop. That is
Yeah.
where I think the number that a lot of people probably need to pay attention to. Because Final Shape, a lot of people come back, I think, to finish the story. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be like, I want to know what happens with the story. I got to see what happens with the witness. What's going to happen next? And then if you got Final Shape, you're going to have that first episode. So that's going to be there. And they're going to get
Mm-hmm.
that first taste of, hey, are we getting seasons, but in a slightly different way? Are these things actually cooler? What's going on in here? That second one, that second drop of like part 2 of episode 1, I think will be very telling.
Yeah.
Whether does the content that you put out on YouTube still get good numbers for part 2? Is it only just for like the main release of episode 1 and then everybody kind of previews the story? That's where I kind of wonder the longevity, because I mean, we have no clue what honestly the future is like. Is there going to
Mm-hmm.
be an expansion in 2025? You would think,
Who knows?
but also it depends on what they're trying to do with the franchise. Maybe the episodes are a way for them to do live service smaller and work on something bigger, and we don't know what that is. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the big tell, that they haven't told anybody, and I think that's the weird part too, because one, I think it's probably what they're figuring out and work on, but on the other side, for the player base, it feels unsure, because you have a live service game, and the future goes as far as like June 5th. You're like, all right, so I got my Final Shape expansion, now what? And we just
Yeah.
don't know, and I think that feels weird for a lot of people, because it hasn't ever felt like this before.
Yeah.
What about you? Where are your thoughts on Final Shape episodes, your variety, how much you plan to stick? Like, are you gonna go hard? Are you what are you planning?
I think for me, because I'd still like to see what a lot. For me, I'm planning on keeping variety. I only stream 3 days a week, so I'm planning on keeping variety in that mix. At least one of those days, if not like 1 day and like half of a session.
Yeah.
In variety. That first week of Destiny 2, probably going to hit it pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
But like outside of that, I want to make sure that like at least for what I'm creating, that I have enough bandwidth to keep variety going, because I still think that that's going to be the answer in the long run. This year it's kind of tough this year versus last year. Last year I feel like there was a lot more that I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
And at like games that weren't Destiny. And this year I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to kind of like hunt and peck a little bit to really like see what I want to cover. Like
You have certain genres you typically steer away from? Are you like I'll do some action games, but I don't really get into the big JRPG. Like, do you have any tendencies? Even if it's not always like you'd play it, but it's just not what
Mm,
you tend to lean to.
I think like so the things that I tend to gravitate to that I feel like I am familiar enough with it in order to make an experience out of it or to experience it with a group of people is like so first person shooters
Yep.
like played Titanfall 2 for the first time this year
Oh,
and that was a lot of
dude.
fun.
Welcome to the
Dude,
party.
yeah, it was wonderful. It was great. It was great. Everybody should go buy Titanfall 2 for like $5
Yeah.
and,
But
and then play it.
there's a few awesome moments, but one of my favorites was that first experience of the, I don't want to say too
Oh,
much, but
yeah.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that was well done. But no, Titanfall 2, absolutely. Like, but that is the thing. It's like you just sit there and describe a first person shooter that does some really, really, really amazing stuff. And if you've
Yeah.
been buried in the Destiny bubble for 10 years, you don't have a clue what the hell we're talking about. Yet,
Exactly.
it's like a 6-hour campaign for $5. Like everybody should experience that.
100%. And like the PvP is fun too. I had fun in the PvP, which is not something that I normally like. I
No.
normally don't stretch out into that realm. And like you're running around with mechs shooting each other and like these tiny little guys running all over the place. That was
grappling hooks and
hilarious.
stuff. The mobility in that
Yeah.
game was really
Incredible. It's a wonder why they never did anything else with that mobility.
Apex.
But like I feel like I also like Soulsborne games.
Good stuff. What was your first?
My first one, I attempted Bloodborne, but like I didn't get that deep into it on stream. That's the problem with doing all this stuff on stream, is that like like we said earlier, it's you're playing something and then something in Destiny happens. It's like, well, I got to cover this because this is where all the stuff is. This is where all the eyes are.
You ever have the point where you want to play for an hour, but you don't want to stream for that long, so then you don't play?
Lately, no.
Okay.
It is.
So you'll jump back in, and like even if you're a little farther ahead, you'll jump back in on stream and say, "Played a little without you guys. Sorry."
Occasionally, the one that I didn't do that with was Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh
Baldur's
yeah,
Gate 3,
you gotta. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I got to a certain point where I was like, you know what? Like the people that are here for this are really here for it. But also, I can't wait until next Tuesday just to play this. So I'm going to play large, disgusting portions of this game, like by myself. And just like there were a few days where it's like I was supposed to be doing edits, and they just didn't happen those days.
I mean, believe me,
like
that's a game I really want to jump into because it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 100, 150 hours depending on how you swing it. I've heard, and it's like I would love to experience that because, like, I've never played D&D per se,
right?
But I feel like it's the perfect way to do it and experience it, and you have like amazingly done animations and all the choices, and just that one girl who put out the video of all the ways to handle just the goblin camp, and you're just like, holy crap! And everything matters, and multiple replays and everything. I mean, that game still, this day, 91,000 players. And you literally look, it looks like everyone literally comes home and plays some at night. And then typically, if you look at the spikes on the graph, they literally, it's like, so you got January 14th, January 21st, January 28th. They literally like come home and play it on the weekends probably. And that's their game that they play. And it is,
because they can get their little gremlin mitts on it and they can just go through, you know? But like,
no, that game, I would love to play that.
It's incredible. And it as somebody who played D&D for the first time last year,
nice.
As like I was invited to do like a little content thing. Like it is surprisingly close to that experience. And it does feel like you can do anything, and yeah, it's just a really impeccable thing. And so I don't know. It just really wherever the wind blows. Viewfinder was an awesome game from last year.
Played some of that. I didn't finish it, but I played some of that. Yeah.
I played all the way through it.
Nice.
In one stream. It takes about like 6 or 7 hours.
Okay.
It is an incredible game. It's crazy. Like
Did
that
you
kind of like
play?
super liminal.
Yeah, that's a buddy of mine was actually playing that when I found the other one. He's like, "Have you played
Yeah.
this?" And it's like, "It looks like I should." Um,
Mm-hmm.
have you played Cocoon?
So that was last month's um game
What,
game
Game
club
Club?
game.
Yeah, Game Club.
Yeah. So I
I
didn't
love.
I didn't connect as much to it as I had wanted to.
Oh man,
But
that's like one of my rare when I'm just like that is a perfect 4 hours in my book. Like that was one of
yeah.
those that I absolutely loved last year. And so on our
Hmm.
podcast, I raved about that anywhere I possibly could. And that's the
Yeah.
nice thing, at least about the variety point. I mean, and that's honestly been one of the benefits as kind of a point to tip me into more of it, been having
Hmm.
Travis on the show. Man is
Yeah.
a machine for like doing reviews and stuff as much as he does for IGN. He actually writes a lot of them there, but it's more the idea that he's playing all these other things and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm still buried in this one thing. I'm like, I want to get out there and experience more. So it's like, that was another one of the like nudges watching him play all
Yeah.
these different things and getting to him like, I'm decent size now. I got to at least try. So throwing my, and that's kind of what you do is like, for the one that I've got access to right now, I threw my hat at everybody I could as nicely as possible, and somehow one of them stuck. But it's like
Yeah.
starting to get connections, figuring out like certain PR firms cover these things,
Hmm.
try not to burn bridges, like have discussions, follow them on Twitter, like, and they are aware and all of that stuff. So it's like it's you can do the Destiny stuff and you can work on your community. You can
Yeah.
do the variety stuff, you can work on your community, but you also have to work on the networking on a different
Yeah.
level of, and half of it's blind. Like
Yeah.
writing
Because
a
nobody's gonna.
professional email is that is the funny thing though, being as we're both a
Hmm.
little more on the mature side of things, depending on when I get
How
in.
dare you call me mature, sir? How
You
dare
work at
you,
a
sir?
library? Come on. You're
How dare you,
how dare
sir?
you, sir? Um no, it is one of those that I have seen and just some of the replies be like, thank you for like the basically, they just appreciate a decent email that has like well constructed sentences,
Oh
actual
yeah.
like compliment, like actual introduction, and just being reasonable and not just demanding things. And it's just basic decency that I feel
Oh,
like I
that's
mean, my
we have to. I have to remind myself constantly that I am working. I'm 37,
yeah,
only a few years younger than you.
yep,
I'm still no spring chicken, but like it's. I have to constantly remind myself that I am in some instances working with people that are 10 to 20 years younger than me, and then put myself. If I end up being frustrated by something that I see either on social media or like professionally with them, I'm like, oh, that's where I was.
yep.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh yeah, I
And
mean
that's
my previous like 8 or 9 years in a previous corporate job that I did is I had a thick skin before I came to the internet, which worked
yeah,
because you kind of need one.
yeah,
I'll see other content creators get a little worked up about comments and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't give a damn
yeah,
most of the time because now, granted, if you put out a piece of crap piece like content and somebody's going to tell you about it, it's probably good to listen to the feedback. But on the side of just somebody being an idiot, or you publish a video and there's like an instant downvote because somebody follows you just to
yeah,
downvote you, it's like
yeah,
you can just kind of take it as, well, I guess I'm big enough that there's a turd following me now. So it's like you get
yeah,
to the point where even it's like you got to find the silver linings and random stuff like that. It's like I guess it's like if you're big enough to have haters, you are at least big enough for something. It's like
yeah,
find the stupid people who follow you in chat or the stupid people. YouTube chat's worse than Twitch for the bots. Oh god.
yeah.
YouTube podcast chat, like it's not always that bad, but man,
Yeah.
some of those like bots that come through are real fun. Uh,
Well, and I think that that's something, and platform wise, I think that that's something that Twitch has been working on for years and years and years
yeah.
now, and like it's fairly good. It's not perfect, but
No,
it's
like both
fairly good.
platforms have their yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think like yeah, I people appreciate when you're professional with them, where you're like, hey, I need this review code by yesterday, or else my grandma's gonna die. Like that, like that kind of thing, or it's going to ruin my life. There is something to be said about old age and tyranny a little bit when it
I
comes
was going to say
to,
old age
at
and
least in the
wisdom.
profession.
Yeah.
Well, in the professional, well, sometimes
Yeah.
wisdom comes off as tyranny. But
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that, at least like on a personal level. And so I think that's something that I could have used a lot more of in my earlier days.
I mean, we all go through that
Yeah.
growth, though. It's like when I never expected in my life I would be doing what I do now. From
Yeah.
the career that I had previously, the degree that I've got, and even the job that I had while I was kind of splitting this part-time before I went full-time. Um, Never thought I would have landed in some of the stuff I've been doing. But one of the things that will get you farther in a lot of those areas, generally, being a decent human being half the time will
Yeah.
get you a long way with how you address someone. And it's like somebody's going to remember. It's like, hey, I'll try and put your information forward to, the PR team or community team. If they get you a code, cool. It's like, and if you're just like, hey, thanks for trying, as opposed to, but I deserve one because I want, and it's
will
like,
never return back to you.
yeah, and it's like, and
yeah.
you want to burn a bridge so fast by being just a little pain in the butt. It's the times I see PR people say, for one, put your email in your bio. For the love of God, please put your
Yes,
email
for
in
the
your
love of
bio. I
God.
cannot believe how many times I've seen that repeated on Twitter over the years. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's a big one. But no one is guaranteed anything. Doesn't matter how big you are as a creator, doesn't
Right.
matter who you are. It's like no one is guaranteed. And that's one of those, it's like, it would be really nice if I could get this thing and I could ask nicely, but maybe you don't fit the demographic. Maybe it's like one of the hard ones to get into, PlayStation. Really, really, really
Yeah.
difficult to try and get any true PlayStation. Like Stellar Blade coming out, Rise of the Ronin right now. Like Rise of the Ronin, you see the previews and I'm like, well, that one's, and without being surprised at all, I was like, of course I didn't. And I'm not surprised because that is just a very hard like connection to get into to that one. But it is still trying to reach out as much as you can and trying to figure out the ones. And that's where the variety stuff is difficult because you may want to try and cover something early, or you may want to jump into a game. And anymore, it's like, I don't care if I get the free code at all. I really don't care about the code. It is the timing of when for YouTube. But for something like streaming, it's a little less crucial, but it's still nice to kind of have your ducks in a row beforehand, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you get like the embargo stuff, because whether it's YouTube or Twitch, it is still about timing.
Yeah.
So if there's a point of getting something for, hey, can you stream on embargo day where there's much less people in the directory and you can have a chance at getting more people to hang out with you? That's a benefit.
Yeah.
Hey, are you trying to make a video that's going to come out for X day and you want to have some time to prepare it? It is beneficial, but no one must have that stuff. No one is guaranteed it at all. And that's kind of the thing it's one of those maturity things that when you get a little more life experience under your belt and those kind of things seem they should be common sense. And when you see that they're not, you're going, yeah, there's still a different side of the internet out there. And when you're reasonable, it actually helps.
So before we start sounding like two old men sitting on the porch talking about the kids,
I mean, fair.
Yeah. Before we start doing that,
is it too late already?
What it might be. What games are you looking forward to this year? Like what? Like if like I would say 3. Pick 3 games that you're looking forward to.
Well, one that I'm looking forward to that I may or may not be able to get early access to. It's Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
So that is one. I didn't play the first one, but I know it had a cult following. But the idea of a big open action adventure, and the more I see about it, the better it keeps looking. The vocations you can get with your like magical archer and your pawns where they can go learn stuff from other people and bring you back knowledge. and it's been 12 years in the making, I think, or whatever, for them to come from the last one to this one. And Capcom has just been on fire. Like,
Mhm.
next year, Monster Hunter Worlds is probably more exciting to me than Grand Theft Auto 6. I know that sounds stupid.
I don't know. I'm not all that enthused about Grand Theft
I
Auto
was like,
6, but
Grand Theft Auto 6, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. Like,
yeah.
if there are parts of that game that will click with me, then cool. But like Monster Hunter, if it's a true open world, not all these little zones, and they can pull that one off. Since Monster Hunter World, I put like 200 hours in on PlayStation. Then when it finally came to PC,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it all again. They had cross save kind of thing.
Right.
But Monster Hunter World, like, I was like, okay, now you polished out a little quality of life stuff, because I played Generations 4 on 3DS,
Yeah.
and but then World, I was like, this did enough quality stuff for me that the loop made sense. The monsters you go after, then you get to the point in the middle where it like opens up even more. It's like, this is a legit, huge, awesome, fantastic thing, and I love the loop of trying to craft the new gear and get the parts off the dinosaurs and go on. It's like, and I love the
Right.
action piece, so it spoke to me really well. So like next year would be that, but this year is Dragon's Dogma 2. Seems like it is one of the bigger games of the year.
Mhm.
I was very pleasantly surprised by like Pacific Drive, um,
Mhm.
Banishers, Ghost of New Eden. I got a chance to play that one. That was better than expected as well.
Yeah.
Enjoyed kind of the story the way it went. I mean, Helldivers is just goofy fun. But then you also have
Yeah.
like letdowns, even though I would say Suicide Squad was an expected letdown.
Well, I how much of that yeah, I don't know. So like how much of that was like people being like, games as a service and like and just the pedigree of what that studio had been previously
Yeah.
with the Arkham games.
Oh, well, and that's the problem is it's like they have some of the best looking character models that I've ever
Yeah.
seen. Some of the animations in the cutscenes, the voice acting, the dialogue, that stuff was well done, but it
Yeah.
was the way certain pieces were delivered, the way the loot, like going for loot grind. And now it's not like, hey, let me go through an action RPG, upgrade a skill tree, and finish it. It's let me
Right.
grind out loot in a game that doesn't feel like it should have it. And then the
Yeah.
end game had like 3 missions that you would repeat over and over. It was kind of
Was it
more, I don't know, it's the idea that a live service, and even when it came to the story, it's like, being as didn't really get a chance to jump into it, I kind of got an idea of how it all somewhat went
Mhm.
down. But it's more the idea that it can't have a complete ending. There's no finale, kind of, because you're still
Yeah.
not done. So it's still kind of hit in a weird way. So then if you're gonna go grind to level up, as opposed to just like, I beat Suicide Squad, you don't get to do that, and it
Y-
hits different for a
Yeah.
Rocksteady game, and I think that was why that one went the way it.
Yeah. Was it better or worse than Anthem?
No, I liked Anthem
Yeah.
because my little interceptor that I got, it was the smaller, nimble ninja guy.
Yeah.
I loved the guy's I loved the mobility in that
Yeah.
game. I
It looked
like,
like skating. I
oh,
remember
it
that.
was like, I mean, they could jump jet. I'm like, you nailed Iron Man. How the hell did you do that? And then when you
Yeah.
hear about the development of that game, and it almost did, like, flying was almost not in the game or something, to hear all of that, and then for it to get the system that we got, it was just like, because that is, whoever made that system, if there's ever an Iron Man game, you better, if you don't beat Anthem,
Yeah.
you've already failed, because
Yeah.
they did it really well. So it's like, for me, there are certain things about Anthem, it's just like the in-game grind, kind of tapered out. So it's like the gameplay of Anthem and just like what I could do and the abilities and stuff, and then you had like the priming and damaging and stuff.
Mhm.
I just loved my little nimble interceptor mobility guy. Um, it's just like everybody, I mean, multiple reviews, and I'm probably stealing the words from them. It's, you have non-superheroes using guns in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
It's not as, I'm not playing with Green Lantern doing badass creations or something, or I don't have Batman flying around, or Wonder Woman just with her whip. Like, the cast of characters that you're going against, much cooler versus the
Yeah.
ones that you are when everybody just has a gun, a mobility variety like augmentation, and your ability to swing between 3 different rooftops and fight purple-headed guys. It's
Right.
like what the studio has done. I mean, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight.
Mhm.
Uh, it is going to be a very big letdown, and then sadly that studio doesn't seem to have learned a lot because now they're going, Hogwarts Legacy was really successful. Let's go do more live service.
Yeah.
Like what? You're not learning. You're not reading the room very well.
Yeah.
That one's painful.
Leave it to Warner Brothers.
So yeah, one of mine is definitely Dragon's Dogma. Let's go one for you.
I think Hyperlight Breaker
Ooh,
is
nice.
one.
I like that.
Like, Hyperlight Drifter was one of my favorite games to play within the last like 10 years. And
To play that before the other one comes out. And I know I've got time, but I do need to. How long is Drifter?
I mean, there's like 4 dungeons in there. It's kind of roguelitey.
Okay.
You could probably finish it, I would say, in probably like 15, like under 15.
Yeah,
so probably worth
Drifter,
a few sessions.
Main story 8 hours, main plus sides 11.5, completion is 26. So yeah, 15 feels like, leveling up, experience some stuff. You're seeing
doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
pretty
excited
fun
about that though. Like I'm excited about Breaker because seems like they took that concept, but they're going 3D with it, which seems, if they can pull it off and kind of make that transition from 2D to 3D, not specifically like Helldivers did, but like they made a good transition. And if Breaker can do the same thing,
well, they kind of had like a half step game with like Solar Ash.
they were the same ones who did that. Okay,
yeah. So like that has like this. That's more of a skating mechanic, but that mechanic shows up in Breaker, at least in some of the trailers. That looks really cool to me. Especially with it being set in the same world. I'm kind of all over that thing. It also has its little ghost analog, the little Bobby Dee-Doo that's hanging out behind you.
Yeah, your little. Why are all of the little helper robots always cute? Even the one that's coming up in like Star Wars Outlaws, the little robot. All the little Star Wars robots are adorable. So must have
they have to look
robot.
Adorable. Yeah, it passes the test.
All right, so we got a Hyperlight Breaker for you.
Yeah,
an easy one for me, without even probably browsing the list, is gonna be Black Myth Wukong. I probably said it earlier.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest one that I know of in August right now, and I know more things are gonna get dates. But since I've seen that first trailer, it blew me away. Souls-like, you know what I'm talking about? You know which one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Chinese studio.
Yeah, the Chinese studio.
Had a little bit of I think they had a little bit of controversy a few months back about.
Yeah, I've heard a couple things about
how
the
they
studio.
treated women in the office.
Yeah. Unfortunately, where that studio is based, it's hard for us to do much about that one, unfortunately, which sucks. But the game itself, you got the way, it looks so good. I mean, UE5, the characters, animations, enemies, and everything. I was blown away from every trailer I've seen. I was like, for my big Souls game, it's like Rise of the Ronin, I want to play it. Seeing some of the previews right now, it seems to be getting kind of good, not great so far, and maybe it'll kind of build later, but I still do want to play that one. Depending on timing, that might be the one that I stream if I get to cover another game early. That might be one that I would kind of stream from launch. Because they come out on the same day. Dragon's Dogma and Rise of the Ronin come out on the same friggin' day. And this is a discussion like I've had, and I've seen a couple of them move, but not many. But it's the idea of like everything felt like it had to be in February for fiscal quarters and financial for whatever reason. 4. Yeah, but also on the other side, I'm like, some of you got buried just because you felt like you had to put it there.
Yeah.
That's just a weird thing to me. But yeah, like Black Myth is easily, I say that as I browse and I see Shadow of the Erd Tree. Because that's also in the same realm. But for unique games, I would say Black Myth is probably my number.
Yeah.
What about you?
Haunty. That was one that was so it
When
was
is it coming out?
it's on the list for 2025. At least GameSpot has it, or for that's on there to be announced. But
For
they had the
24?
demo during Steam Next Fest.
Okay.
It was very cool.
Nice.
Like just aesthetically, I think it was announced not during the I don't think it was during the Game Awards. I think it was like a little bit beforehand, maybe at like one of the PC gamer things.
Oh, I see it.
But
Okay. Yeah.
that's a very neat game.
Nice.
Fairly unique. It seems like from my impressions of it, if you liked Cocoon,
Mm.
you might find some things in there that you like as well.
Keep that on the list. Yeah, kind of looks a little isometric, but almost like 2D graphics, but with kind of like depth to it and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I'm probably gonna make this list long, but early access
Yeah.
coming in April, and can't get here soon enough. Say it wrong. No Rest for the Wicked.
Okay. I've
The
seen a
one.
lot of people excited about that one.
So, did you ever play Ori? Either of them?
No.
Oh my.
I never played either of the Ori games.
Do you like platformers?
I was stuck in the Destiny life, man.
No, dude, I
was
know.
stuck
Believe me,
there.
I get it.
Looking,
I know.
yeah.
I know.
I was staring down the barrel of a hawk moon
Yep.
while everybody else was off Orient.
It's just I even got to that one late.
Yeah.
Do you like platformers?
I do like platformers.
It is one of the best.
Okay.
Both. Art style,
Mm-hmm.
amazing, just like world design. I don't want to say skybox because it's wrong because it's a platformer, but it is the skybox, like the depth to it.
Yeah.
The controls are extremely tight. It's always you
Okay.
if you fail. It's that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not an easy game. It's not like the hardest in the world, but it is on you to get it right. But if you do get it right, it's there. The controls are just damn near perfect.
Right.
And a story that can almost gut you.
Okay.
It is a amazing experience. Both of them. Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Like, if I can recommend some games to people, those are amazing. Cocoon is amazing, but Ori, like, if you play the first one, you're gonna be like, all right, now what the hell's the second one? I gotta play that too. Like,
Yeah.
they are so good. If you ever do play it, DM me and let me know what you think, because when you finally get around to it, it's one of those that if you finally like beat it and you're just like, yep.
Yeah.
Those are good. So No Rest for the Wicked is their take on an ARPG, but it's got some loot, but it's also like a Souls ARPG. More deliberate combat, less enemies, more intentional like dodging and parrying and stuff like that, not just spam all the time. The previews that I saw, like Miss 5000 Watts, she got to play the really early access, like few hours that she got to play. I've seen a lot of people stream it after they did their little stream. That one for me is, I'm gonna be on that early access demo, kind of like day one thing. Like, I would love to try and get it a little beforehand, but even if not, if it's just like everybody's getting it the same day at that point forward, it looks really, really good, and it's very stylistic. That's one thing they're very good at, is having their own art style. They did it again, I think, and they did a great job. So that's one, people who have already played it and like vibing with it, I have very little to worry about on that one, but I just can't wait to get my hands on it. That's actually, early access is April. What about you? What's another one for you?
Well, so I'm looking at this list here. I was going to say Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree, because that is one that I'm excited for.
I think we all have to. If you like Souls, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. But like some my heart goes to one place and one place alone on this list.
Okay.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of
Have
it.
you heard of this game?
I have heard of this. I have not played. I've heard.
It is going to be an asymmetrical killer game.
Okay, it's one of those. Gotcha.
Yeah, but you're the clowns.
Of course you are. Why wouldn't you be?
And the clowns, if you've seen the movie, are hilarious and creepy. I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be. I think that's going to be very dumb. And I've never played like a Dead by Daylight style game.
Yeah, if you haven't played one, then you're due.
Yeah.
If one speaks to you, then yeah, by all means.
I think this is the one. This is like that game that
Nice.
broadens my horizons for it.
Like I got a couple more. So on the smaller side,
Yeah.
Tales of Kinzera Zao. That was one in Steam Next Fest. The demo was featured in Xbox's showcase. I forget the actor who from. It looks like it's a good platform. The demo is out there, so you can literally play the demo right now. It takes you an hour, quick. But Babsy. So because everybody seems to know him from stuff, and he was on the Game Awards. He announced this game. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's doing a thing." I was like, "I don't know him," but everybody's like, "He's in this thing." Oh, okay. I did see him for a little bit. He was in Raised by Wolves, which was HBO show.
The HBO show?
Yep, he did that one. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. He's done a lot of voices. Here, done enough. He's been around for voices and stuff, but basically, it is a platformer. But it is a story about his experiences dealing with grief, and it looks like he poured his heart and soul into this, like writing and story, and also bringing his culture straight up to the forefront. So, like the African culture and everything is very, very present in it.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
So you got like the two masks, kind of two different sets of powers. It looks like it's just one of those that I really want to experience because it feels like they poured their heart into it, and I think that alone will
it's
probably
a piece of art.
Yep. Yep. So that one is late April. That's one I'm looking at. Go ahead.
One that I am looking forward to. This will probably be my last one for the list. One that I'm looking forward to, even though I haven't played the original yet. The original we're playing for this month's Game Club.
Oh.
But in May, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2.
I was like, please tell me you're doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that is one that so when we decided for Game Club that it was going to be Hellblade, I was like, it kind of has to be that with it being so close.
So you're doing that in April?
So we're doing Hellblade this month.
Okay, nice.
Give it a little bit of breath.
Yep.
And then in May.
So if you have about an 8 or 9 hour day, you could knock it out in one day, or it's going to be 2.
Yeah.
But it is, like no distraction, headphones on, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And you probably already know enough, but
I've heard some things, not a lot, but some things.
No distractions.
I'm like, okay,
headphones
I'm eager
on.
to try this.
Completely immersed. However you can do it. That game was very well done for what it's conveying, for what it's going for. If you haven't played Hellblade,
Senua's Sacrifice?
That's right. Yep. Senua's Sacrifice, like Hellblade, the Sacrifice. That is an experience very unique. I mean, it's an adventure, but it is just unique with regards to how it handles the topic it's trying to discuss.
Mhm.
and I'm very curious what they do with the second one. But the first was a journey well worth going through. Um,
Heck yeah.
so yeah, you got a good one on deck there. So if you're playing, have you played it at all this month? Or are you getting to it yet?
I'm getting to it next week.
Okay,
Is like when I'm scheduling time to
nice.
sit down and knock through it because
I'll be curious to kind of see curious to see how the book club likes that one.
yeah yeah. So, but that's kind of like where I am, and had that's part of the thing. If had I not like tried to do variety, probably wouldn't have gotten around to that until like
Yeah.
years later.
No, I mean,
So
and that is one of those things that it's like, if Destiny is comfortable to you, I totally get it. And there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with like, I still will go in. It's like, so Prophecy. I think I soloed Prophecy 3 or 4 times last week just for farm and loot and kind of getting comfortable with it. I made a guide right before it got redone on Monday, so I literally think I played it probably a total of 4 times now. Um,
Hmm.
it's still the game still feels good doing cool stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, but there are so many experiences that gaming can do so uniquely. And for me, one
Hmm.
of the things that gaming does very uniquely that I appreciate is making you feel small.
Yeah.
Um, God of War did that extremely well for one
Hmm.
character that you meet. I bet you almost lose it. Anytime that you can feel small in scale to a point where it's kind of hard to experience that in other things.
Hmm.
Um, not a lot of movies can do scale, but I mean, I recently saw Dune 2. Get an idea how big some of the sandworms are. Like,
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
freaking amazing movie in IMAX. The sound design in that just alone is fantastic. But scale it's different when you're controlling it.
Hmm.
And I really, really love games that do it well. God of War did that really well for me. For scale is one. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's another one. Kind of those third person adventures that you do because when you're, hey, how big is this thing? And sound design goes into that.
Hmm.
So, like Bloodborne, for example, there's an enemy. Some of it I forget. I haven't played it in so long. I told myself I was not going to play Bloodborne until they redo that thing to some level. I don't care if
They're
it's
not gonna do
literally
it.
a 60 FPS patch. That's literally all I like. How do you not do a remaster polish and a 60 FPS? Just make it run better because the loading screens alone in that were a little annoying. Should be
You'll
better.
get that in Titanfall 3 in the same year.
Yeah. I I have, well, from rumors it sounds like something Titanfall's being worked on. Sounds like Bloodborne is not happening until like PS6 if they're going to do that. But either way, sound design and scale when you feel small is something cool that games do.
Yeah.
And Destiny does some cool moments that we've had, definitely for
Hmm.
sure. But they're like you're gonna get different things out of games, and if you just keep yourself in the little box, even though it's comfortable, you're missing so many experiences. Now, not everybody's gonna like puzzle games. So I can tell you,
Right.
like, The Witness is an amazing frigging game, but I know it's not for
Yeah.
everybody. Have you played it, by the way? The Witness?
I have not. No,
You like
I have not.
puzzles?
So I'm very particular about my puzzlers.
That's fair. I get it.
Viewfinder, like it had a
If you
quirk.
beat Viewfinder,
Yeah.
you might.
It had a quirk that I was like, it was playful enough, and it allowed me to engage it in a way that maybe necessarily wasn't always the chosen
Yeah, no, there's a little
way of
freedom
playing
to it
that
because I,
puzzle.
I goofed around with
Yeah.
one level early on. I was like, I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to do this, but it worked. So
Yeah. Like there's one Viewfinder is a game where you take pictures and like you take those pictures and turn them into spaces.
yeah,
Um there was one where I just kept multiplying all the batteries. So I was like, I'm gonna need at least 8 batteries.
yeah. So the copy of a copy of a copy
Yeah,
multiplicity
yeah, yeah.
style. Yeah,
Yeah. It was great. It was really fun. And like that final passage, I remember getting kind of frustrated and a couple of points on it. But that final passage where it's like there's a bit where you have a time constraint. Um That was incredible. It was
nice.
It built on itself. I'll maybe get around to The Witness, but it's not very high on my list.
That's
of
fair.
things
Yeah,
to
I was
do.
like, if you're really a puzzle person, you want to like stretch your brain. That's one where I had a notepad. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
It's a very, but when you figure some of this stuff out, you're like, yeah. So it's cool. Like if you want to stretch your brain, it's a good way to do that. It's an interesting.
Heck yeah.
But variety is the spice of life. It's probably a very cliche thing to say, but
yeah,
all of these other experiences that I've been able to do, but variety for content is a scary spice. Not to bring up the Spice Girls or anything, but
it's tough.
Yeah, it is a gamble every time you try and step outside your box of comfort. So you may be comfortable playing a game. Imagine trying to make content on something you don't know much about. And that's kind of the thing, is you get that time commitment to try and make that content. Or for you, is it like 3 or 4 streams that don't do quite the numbers that you're used to seeing? You may get a few community members on this one, or you may do a game that everybody jumps in for.
Yeah. There's Alan Wake 2. I've been playing that for a while, and I find that I need to take like a week break in between. Because it's like, I like the story. I like what it's trying to do. Some of the encounter design is pissing me off, as well as like the jump scare bits.
Fair.
And I need a breathing room in between it in order to continue down that path. But that game also does a really good job of breadcrumbing like where you've been, so you don't forget, and reinforcing the story as it's being told.
Oh, speaking of sound design, where you are. Another really good game for that.
Yeah.
Have you been through the train tunnel?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about when I say sound design in there?
Yeah.
God, that was just terrible. That was like almost like unsettling, skin feels uncomfortable moment. I'm like, damn, like those moments where you're kind of blown away happen for any number of reasons. But yeah, that sound will stick with me, of just like, I remember that walking through that one train car, like, get me out of here. Like, and that's if you don't play other stuff, you miss those moments, and it's going to be different for everybody. As I said, like, Witness is not for everybody. Cool puzzle game. Coon.
Yeah.
Stuck with me is like, that was a perfect little like 4-hour experience, but you may go through and jump into who knows what. And I think that's the idea of kind of jumping out for a variety, is so many cool games out there, and they don't always have to be the big AAA ones. That's the other piece too, is check out the indies, check out the double A's, check out the single A's.
Devolver has so many awesome games that they put out that, like, if I see Devolver on the thing, I'm like, all right, I need to take a look at that one.
Yeah, no, it's so, is it Baby Steps looks ridiculous.
Yes, it does.
I really, really, really want to play the Plucky Squire. I know it gets like been delayed a bit.
Yeah.
Plucky Squire looks so cool. Like the fact that they just have you like 2D, 3D walking in and out.
And that's what I mean by, like, it has to have some sort of like little tick for me.
Yeah.
To engage with it. Did you play Tinykins?
No.
Tinykins is fun. It's a platformer, a la like Pikmin.
Oh.
And so, but you're in this giant house, and you're super tiny.
I see. Yep.
It's very cool. It also has like your sprites all are like 2D.
Oh.
so you're flipping kind of like Paper Mario a little bit.
Nice. Good game too.
That's pretty neat. Yeah.
Oh, look, it says similar to Ori. Hint, hint, cough, cough.
Hey, there we go. All right, well then I'm circling Ori on the book then.
Did you play Inscription? I see it on the bottom of theirs.
I have Inscription. I haven't played it yet. That is another one that's like in the next couple months.
That is a unique. I don't want to say anything. It's just a unique experience, and when you start, you're like, oh, this is what this. Okay, all right.
Well, like, it's a part of that was like, I really enjoyed Hades when it came out, and like Hades 2 is just around the corner.
That's
Hades
another
2 is just
one.
around the corner. That's gonna be super cool. And then like I also before Hades, I played what was the one where you're the shopkeeper and you would go dungeon
Moonlighter?
delving? Yeah, Moonlighter.
Yeah.
Moonlighter was great. Cult of the Lamb. I'm
Yep.
finding like little roguelite
Oh,
experiences
yeah.
to be something that's super enjoyable for me. Run-based things are fun.
Probably why we both love Pacific Drive. The
Yeah.
weird mix of survival roguelike kinda. No,
That
Hades,
that
though.
one's so weird though because of the driving and the repairing aspect of your
Yeah,
car.
it's like it's the Venn diagram of like, do you like tinkering cars and survival roguelike? Like somehow there's these three Venn
Yeah.
diagrams, and if you manage to sit in all three of those, you're gonna have a hell of a time. But
Yeah.
no,
Also, do you like
Hades,
Ghostbusters?
yeah, a little bit. Hades is special though. Hades, the way they do the
Yeah.
voices and everything, and the way that loop goes when you get through kind of the first time and stuff. No, if and Supergiant doesn't really miss anyway.
Yeah.
But no, Hades 2. Yeah, the early access is supposed to be Q2 2024.
Yeah.
That I mean, yeah, I keep forgetting things like that are on their way too. I'm just like, Hades 1 is really special when it comes to roguelikes. Like that's probably one of the best. Purely
Yeah.
the fact that that's coming is like, okay, yep, that doesn't have an official date, but that's coming too. So it's like it looks like the rest of the year is a little more open and things are going to start to like hit the schedule and
Fill
stuff.
in.
So it's trying to stay on top of that stuff. I'm trying to get more of a calendar now to stay on top of everything, just to keep all of these dates and embargoes and other things square. I got
Yeah.
a, I literally got a code today, which I can't talk about, but you may have extrapolated what I was talking about. But there's another one,
It was for a broccoli game. It was for a game where you're a
broccoli
broccoli
game.
monster
Yep.
and you eat a village of peas.
I,
Go ahead.
how do I follow that? How does one follow that?
Sorry. Do your worst.
But there's another one called Alone in the Dark. Comes out
Yeah.
on like the 19th, and that's actually got David Harbour and I think Jamie Comer is the other one in it. I played the OG on like my old ass PC when I was growing up, and that was like the first horror game survival thing that I experienced. And they're kind of
Yeah.
doing a retelling of that. That comes out on like the 19th, which is like 3 days before all the chaos of Dragon's Dogma 2 and everything else comes out. I'm like, why?
You're gonna have to run for it, dude. You're gonna have to run.
No, but that's always when I'm like, why not go? I don't know. April has some stuff, but it feels like there's not a lot in its realm. So even if you move 2 weeks or something, I feel like you'd be. That's always my weird part about why does everything have to stack on top of each other? Sometimes it's weird when release dates and publishers feel like they're going to be no, we're going to be fine. It's like feel like you're not.
Yeah.
That's the time constraint too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could Starfield, there was never enough hours to try and play that one. I put 80 hours
Yeah.
into it for like my review, still put like 40 hours into it afterwards. That was a review cycle journey. It started at 6 in my head. Finished
Mm-hmm.
all of the story dialogue stuff. I was like, the stories are cool. I kind of got over the faces. I just listened to the dialogue.
Yeah.
Kind of ended about an 8, and then by the time I played it more, it kind of frustrated me more, and it went back down to a 7. I was like, that was a journey for me. And then I had stuff like Remnant 2 and Liza P last year. Both of those
Mhm.
were fantastic. There's a lot of amazing games, and I know. And then some people just want to sit there and play Madden and Call of Duty, NBA 2K, FIFA, and they just want 1 or 2 games for the year, and that's just what they play all year. And that is totally
Yeah.
fine if that's your jam. I find it difficult to know that there's so many good experiences out there, and there's not enough time for all of them, but there's time for a few
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. It's about having like a well-balanced a well-balanced perspective, a well-balanced gaming culture in a way. But yeah.
Well, I think we've been going for a while here, longer than
Yeah, man.
expected per se, but not arguing with a good chat.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we go, one question
Yeah.
to kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
So as you look into the future of variety, what is a challenge that you are trying to set for yourself to that maybe you haven't done yet or try and be more reliable with? with regards to variety, what is like a variety challenge that is on your horizon that you would like to tackle? Maybe it's earmarked like in your head that you want to get to it.
Yeah.
I would say dog-eared, but that's kind of like a sacrilegious thing to do to books for a librarian. So,
It's for me, it's like trying to find my angle into it. Like if it's something that I find is worthwhile, how do I find my excitement, or how do I convey my excitement of the thing without it coming off as too saccharine or as too overhyped, because that is something that can happen just in anything.
yeah, half the stuff I probably talked about sounds over.
Well, I mean, but like genuine excitement also is
Yeah.
something that you should express.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, finding my angle into the thing, finding why it, and being able to explain why it's important to me and why it should be important to the person that I'm trying to convey that message to. That's my biggest thing that I'm working on.
Sure.
What about you?
So for me, it's trying to cover variety in more ways than just what I've had success with. So if I've had
Yeah.
success with guides, I also want to, for me, it's probably most important work on reviews, which on a broader scope is to work on writing.
Yeah.
I am not as much of a writer, math, science, other things, but for writing, that is a skill that never probably been my forte.
Yeah.
So that is for me trying to write a review. Maybe not all the way to the level of like a skill up hour-long Destiny review. That's a hell of a script. And then Travis is the other side where his reviews are typically like about 10 minutes in IGN fashion. Somewhere in the middle, I feel, is where I would probably find myself comfortable most of the time for review length. Uh, but to work on just kind of an actual review process. I know I'm not like going to get giant views on reviews.
Yeah.
But I do think for practice, it's a skill that I definitely want to work on, because if I can make a guide, that's kind of exciting to do and hopefully helps a lot of people. The fact that in the start of my Liza P video that I told people how to run, and there are more comments on there of how to use the run button than you would have guessed. Because even one of my buddies, I was like, hey, it's like, man, I wish you could run. I was like, it's this. And he's like, I mean, I had my facepalm moment like that with Remnant too. Like it took me a little longer than I'm proud to say to figure out like what the run button was. Little stuff like that's nice, but I would say for me, it's to work on my skill for writing and just conveying my thoughts and just actually working on a script that I can do voiceover for. Because half the time I'll do a script that ends up kind of devolving into bullet points that I ended up kind of winging when I do my voiceover, and it's trying to kind of refine that whole process. That's one that Variety is very good at because you have a lot of opportunities, but it's also just trying to find the time to do that in between everything else. But that's kind of my big goal, is to work on my review process.
Heck yeah. I think that's a solid point to work from. I will say, however, like if you go too scripted, everybody starts sounding robotic.
No, and that's the hard part. I've never done a script for almost any of my videos, like however many I have on my channel. Live commentary and stuff, people have really appreciated from me. And even when I've done, like I did a Banishers review and didn't get that many views, so it's unlisted at this point for the algorithm, but going through and visually showing people something as opposed to doing the voiceover, it's like the actual live interaction helps a little bit. So it's trying to find the balance of like using clips for certain things. But then when I was going through, I did something for Nightingale. It's more recording smaller clips and then being able to put those together, as opposed to, so like using like the OBS replay, like saving just the little chunks and stuff for pieces. And it's just trying to figure out what footage to capture. Like, do I record all however many hours of a giant game? If I'm going to use it, though, that's the question. Then do I go back and dig through the footage? How much is really important? Like, how big's the replay buffer need for OBS to maybe it's like, is it better just to record like, hey, that was a badass 30 minutes that just happened? Let me save that whole experience, but I don't need to save all the running around talking to little people, and I don't need everything. So it's It is truly like the process of what I need to capture, working on a script, where the clips are going to come from. Is it the live? Is it the bullet points that just feel, as you said, more natural to come out and actually just end up finding my own style, which is another thing. It's like trying not to, as I said, you see the skill ups, you see ACG, Travis is a damn good reviewer. It's like, and they all have their own style, and I just have to work on finding my own. And I think that's a little scary to try and find your own voice. I know that sounds like beyond cliche, but it is one of those things when it comes to that type of stuff that I really feel like I need to work. It's trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I do that.
Gotcha. That's I don't know. I also feel like we've been on social media for a long time. We're also kind of known quantities. and like people that pay attention to your work and pay attention to how you speak to others and how you put yourself forth in that space. They find something valuable in that voice. And so maybe try to skew it toward that rather than like trying a completely different new voice.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Embrace what I've found
Yeah.
people come to me for anyway, but steer it in a direction or a view as opposed to try and reinvent them.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what I mean by like finding my angle.
Yeah.
Is like
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I know at this point I'm 37 years old. If I didn't know who I was at this point, God, I'd be lost.
That's fair. Like I am 40. I kind of know who I'm going to be, so I don't need to train.
Exactly.
I just need to refine.
I don't need to be one of these.
I need to refine what I'm doing, but yeah.
If I see you in one of your review videos being, yo, what's up? This is Ebontis. Listen to your boy talk about Haunty for the next 25 minutes. Remember to smash that like and subscribe. I'd be like, Ebontis, I love you.
But what
are you trying on?
What are you doing? And that is one of those things. Like you see, Jacksepticeye is a good example. I was watching him on his Pacific Drive playthrough, and I'm just like, I am not that guy. But I'm happy he exists.
You don't have to be that guy.
No, but that's the thing is like he is very entertaining and he is very good at what he does. It is important to find what you are good at.
Yeah.
And that's success of the guides has been there. I think the reviews for me are the reviews are a way for me to work on writing, which I think is generally just a better, more life skill that I need to work on. So it's like more of a process to focus on that. And then if I could actually freelance for places, if I could get that kind of, work on, that'd be kind of a fun process. It'd be cool to actually kind of freelance for a couple things at that point later on. So small little, steps along the way to think about in the future. But yeah, just work on my process.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a pleasure, man.
Absolutely.
Sorry to keep you up till it's almost midnight your time.
Listen, if I'd have regretted it, I wouldn't have said yeah. I would have been like, you know what? I don't know about this, Ebontis. I don't know. What are we going to talk about for hours together as people who enjoy video games? What are we going to talk about for all this time?
Like, and I'm sitting here having to cut it short because we could keep this going for too long. So,
well, exactly. Yeah. This is great. Thank you so much for reaching out and being like, hey, let's hang out.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I know it's one of those things too. When you have I'm not saying like I'm an amazing podcast. I do okay, I feel. But I would say between the three of us hosts, when we've had you on, and then if you get comfortable having a podcast, there is a comfort of holding a conversation with somebody on a podcast. If you're used to it, you kind of know how to bounce the flow and kind of understand how it's going to go. And if you need a moment, like I mute it and blow my nose and you can carry just little tiny things like that. And you've also probably, just like me, you enjoy having all your guests on, but
Yeah.
some are comfortable speaking, or you can tell they're a streamer or things of that nature.
Yeah.
And you also know some are not. And it is just
Yeah.
kind of an interesting experience on the host side. But that's why when it was you, I was like, this is no brainer. This is going to be the easiest conversation ever. So that's kind of
Yeah.
why it's also low effort. It's just a fun chat.
You
And
have
these are easy. So that's why it's
you have to be
nice.
open. Like that's we have to be open and communicative. And the few times where I've had like stinkers of shows, it's been like either I was like kind of tense about it,
Yep.
or the people on wouldn't open up, and they'd be like,
it's
"So
trying
do
to
you like
break
guarding
down those
games?"
walls. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like guarding games. Okay, well, what do you like about it? I got loot. All right. Do you like PvP right now? Oh, good chat. You know,
Yep.
like
No,
it,
it is.
yeah,
It is a, and again, one, you're never not learning how to be better as a host, and
yeah,
having communication and having that conversation feel as natural as possible. But when you've done it for a lot of episodes, as we both have,
yeah,
it does come easier. You can kind of bounce things off.
yeah,
You come up with a topic, they come up with a topic, and it's honestly fun. Usually, you got a good guest if they're willing to ask you a question as a host.
yeah.
I will say that's like,
100%.
if your guest will ask you a question, you're like, oh damn, you're in this. Okay, cool. Like we're
Yeah,
cruising now. So
we're here to play. We're here to play in the sandbox.
Yeah,
and we're here to play. Like we're building on each other's sandcastle.
those
Like,
are fun moments. Yeah.
Yeah. That recently I have been, because I'm looking at Destiny Digest more as a feature show.
Yeah.
Sorry to continue the conversation.
All good.
But like, because I'm looking at it more as like a feature show, I've been trying to think of it more as like, okay, so I'm featuring this person. I should set the expectation of what I'm going to be asking them, and like kind of give them the flow of the show of how I feel like it should go, but then allow it to be jazz.
Yep.
And like if something pops up, then just kind of let it flow. And so that's been something that I've been trying to learn and incorporate into my whole process as well. So it's a struggle, but you do like pick up things along the way, new ways of doing things.
Those little moments where you can get a guest to open that one box that lets them run down a road.
Oh yeah.
And if you can just crack the seal on that pathway and get them start to talking about whatever that is, you are good for a while. Because if you can bounce that conversation to keep it going down that road and just keep like ricocheting them back onto that road, oh man, you can learn some interesting stuff when people really go deep on topics. It's fun. It is really fun.
So I did a dumb thing last night.
I doubt it.
I had Scarrow as my co-host.
Nice.
And we interviewed Tor from Charlemagne. Right?
Oh, nice.
And we had like a 45-minute conversation. It was very pleasant. I was like, okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, then I'll stop the recording and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And then so once we were done recording, Scarrow asked a question of Tor that was super interesting, and it was about how Charlemagne is like keeps track of billions of like I forget
points,
how
basically.
many.
Yeah,
I forget how many billions of activities.
Yeah,
like they keep track of and have kept track of throughout Destiny. But he started going off on that and was like, God damn, I got to start recording again.
Yeah, never turn off recording until they're gone.
Ah, man. Yeah, that was my dumb move.
Yep.
It's like, I should have just kept that rolling. Why?
Yeah.
Like, normally I would, but geez Louise. Anyways.
Post-game show sometimes is worth keeping. Sometimes it's when Travis feels like going off the ringer, and I have to cut those out. But,
well,
they're still fun.
That's why you keep those for blackmail. Anyways.
No, he would say it again to my face. He doesn't care. That's the best part about him. So he is straight and direct and not going to hold a whole lot back. I got to reel him in just for the YouTube.
Yeah.
monetization process to make sure I'm not going to lose my channel. But other than that,
Right.
yeah, he has been honestly a very lucky addition to round us out with regards to his knowledge of just kind of the games industry, just being around, as I said, the variety of content that he covers, to see perspective on so many different things, kind of inspiration for me to do that type of stuff. But he's also just become like a good friend, and I've been lucky with both of those guys, with Cognito, to truly be able to call him a friend, and Travis as well. It's like, I mean, we're 288 now, an episode number coming up this week, so we're getting close to 300. Spent a lot of time with those guys, and I was like, they may keep me on my toes, but I wouldn't have it any other.
Right.
So it's
exactly.
I was like,
you found your tribe.
Yeah.
Found
had Scarrow on many times. We've had Teddy on many times. I know you were on there at least once. I feel like you're long overdue to come back, but you're a busy man too.
Just invite me.
Oh,
I'm in. Well, so I guess I give the air of being busy. I guess I give the air of being busy when in reality it's just me frantically going, okay, how is this gonna work?
Like one of the people who is actually busy, Fallout.
Yeah.
We had him on the podcast for truly 90 minutes, and it was not a minute more, and he was like running out the door to do something.
Yeah.
Like that man is going all the time. Now there's some content creators I look up to, respect, but it's like the more you learn somebody, you're gonna see that nobody's perfect. Everybody's got their things to work on.
Yeah.
And you can only just try and put your best foot forward.
Exactly. And treat people well.
Yes, just be a decent human. I feel like that's not a big ask. It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Among some circles, it is.
Yeah. among a lot of the internet, it is.
Yeah.
The anonymity of keyboard warriors is really sad, because 99% of the internet wouldn't exist to somebody's face.
Yeah.
And if you did, you'd learn a rough lesson once. So. Well,
yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. This is a pleasure. We'll figure out if this is going on both channels. I'll make it available and stuff like that once I render it all out. We recorded this on March 12th. You may see this a little later after the weekend, so maybe closer to something like, that's going to be 18th, 17th, something like that.
Yeah.
But either way, if you guys enjoy the show, comment, say hello to us, ping us on Twitter. You want to give them like a hashtag if they make it all the way to the very end? Something fun and goofy.
Oh God. No.
No pressure or anything. Yeah.
I can't.
Here you go. Hashtag
off the top of my head.
Hashtag no pressure.
Hashtag no.
Hashtag no pressure.
Hashtag no pressure.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this bonus episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you for whatever our next episodes are of our respective shows. But thank you for listening and letting us fill your ear holes for damn near 2 hours about, I don't even know if there was a real topic to this show, but thanks for being here.
You just kind of meandered.
Yeah.
It was fine.
We like games. Hopefully you do too.
It was a cow path. It was a cow path.
What is a cow path? Hold on.
Wait, you know what? It's just a path. It's just a path that cows walk on.
Okay, but why is it specifically a cow path? Does it meander? Is it like...
yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It just kind of goes anywhere.
I just haven't heard that phrase, cow path.
You could look it up now.
Yeah, I'm going to. And that's where and on that bombshell, if you've ever seen Top Gear.
Hashtag cow path, get in the comments.
Hashtag cow path. There, if you made it this far, you are a crazy person, and we thank you for it. Have a great evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you're at. Danfinity, it was a pleasure. This is Ebontis, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Find us on our places, and we'll see you soon.